do you guys feel e-commerce store owners can tap into location and location-based data to drive their business?
From the search perspective, Google's made such a huge push in the past few years to go more local. So any search that we do right now from here is going to say automatically that we're searching from Philadelphia and give us results that will say different if we're in Jenkintown or in New Jersey. For that reason, you got to make sure if you're a Philadelphia store, like physically, that you're showing out there. And Google does know whether or not they should be a local search or just general.
Right.
The difficulty with e-commerce can be that if you don't have a physical location, you don't really have that tie back to the local target. But if you are someone with multiple locations that you can physically go to, there's a lot that you can do. So we're working on a project right now where we're actually creating for like 400 different locations, individual pages for them. To say this is our physical address, this is where we're located,
right.
And then we can work on putting unique content in each of those pages to say like, here's our title, saying that we're in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and we offer this service, and help them rank well with each of those. Once we get to that part, putting the content on the pages, linking properly, you can also go straight to Google and submit your location. Say, here's where we're located, our hours of business, the services that we offer. Go ahead and put us up there. That way when Google goes through to show SEO companies in Philadelphia, you get your 7-pack of results, and right there at the top, hopefully we see SEER offering SEO services.
That's great. Fine. Yeah, thank you.
It's so, from our perspective, segmenting by geolocation actually for e-commerce is surprisingly something that we've been able to do for quite some time by virtue of the fact that you kind of have to get the products to the customers somehow. And you learn a little something about where they're geographically located in doing so. And I think what can be varying very, very widely by industry and very widely by product group is actually statistically significant differences in the performance of different customers and the tendencies of different customers who exist in different geographic areas.
Sure.
International buyers from different regions within the US, being able to potentially at times tie that data into regions based on average income or information on kind of the age or kind of gender bias of particular areas. You can, with a zip code, very easily with very publicly available data sets, gain fairly deep kind of broad insights into the broader makeup of kind of a particular cohort of customers that live within that area. So if you have enough data and you have enough customers, then you potentially have the ability to draw some actually kind of wider insights that are inferred by geography that can allow you to get a much deeper understanding of your customer base, even if you're not explicitly storing that information.
Sure.
So I think it's actually really one of the things that for us has not changed all that much, but always been exceptionally powerful over the course of the time that we've been doing this, is being able to tie the shipping and or the billing information about customers back into information about where they physically are, right, and looking at how those customers differ, either based on geolocation or based on demographics inferred from geolocation. And I'm actually very excited to hear Monetate's answer to this question as well, because I think there's a lot that can be done.
No pressure.
Yeah, from our perspective, you gain a much deeper understanding. You can make marketing and merchandising decisions that are different as a result of that. I think when you tack on something like what Monetate does, which is actually kind of dynamically rendering the content based on the information you have about geography, I think there's a kind of a wide open universe of opportunity. So it's very exciting at every step of the chain from our perspective.
Do you think, and Nathan, maybe you can roll this response into yours as well, do you think it's more valuable or significantly more valuable if you're a brick and mortar retailer selling online to have that type of information, or is it just as valuable to an online only shop? I
think it's different. It's definitely valuable to an online only shop standalone, without a doubt. I think when you incorporate the existence of a brick and mortar store, it certainly complicates the data issue. Doing things like even tying a purchase from one person who exists in brick and mortar to that online universe can be, depending on how your setup is, difficult to impossible, usually skewing toward impossible. But I think that you can still learn a lot either looking at those data sets independently and separately, or when you can incorporate that data, it's certainly just, it's another dimension by which you can potentially slice the information. And if you can have enough information that gets you to a level of statistical confidence where you can make some conclusions, then, it's only adding to the power that you've got.
Great, thank you.
Answer lives up to billing there. So, yeah, absolutely. As Robert alluded to, there's so much potential and so much information available about the location, whether it's app specific through through the mobile device, or in our case, really the browser's giving you all this information. And so it is two pieces. The brick and mortar and the online only or pure play actually has a ton of opportunity as well. But in the brick and mortar, what we're seeing is kind of going back to what Steve Kahn had alluded to, and sort of that, what are your organizational plays in terms of how the channels work together? So is that offering those service attributes, knowing that somebody's within a certain radius of a physical footprint, meaning you can return things in stores, you can ship to stores, so how you leverage that relationship on the digital medium, incorporating that extra component as it relates to your physical brick and mortar. That's a huge piece. What we've, and where the multi-channel can take advantage. A huge piece where we're seeing, especially around the holidays, but it's available throughout, for pure plays, brick and mortar as well, but it's the idea of how does your location relate to your actual fulfillment center, and the relation therefore of, are you one zone away from that center, even though home office is in Delaware, your shipping fulfillment center is in Denver, so that changes the paradigm about what geolocation means to that customer at that time. So if somebody is buying from Boulder and it's getting shipped from Denver, well, you have a different operating cost. You have a different potential service opportunity to over-deliver on what might be your standard delivery time. So there's a lot of ways that you can customize and really maximize that engagement based around your fulfillment area. Quickly though, to go back, we also look at it in the capacity of the device, even though we don't want to get into the app, but from a device specific, through analytics, you're going to understand that geolocation and device have a great deal of emphasis on what the user's trying to do. So anecdotally, what we see on the phones, geolocation is pertinent because they're often looking for an actual physical store if it's a brick and mortar. They want to know how to get there. So how do you enhance that to make sure that based on the device they're on, the location they're in, you're giving them the information that they're most likely looking for. We know in a lot of tablet examples that's different. It's sort of couch activity that conversions up. So keeping in mind that kind of that second tiered layer is you're overlaying not only just what's the location that the consumer's at, but then also a second element is what's the device they're using, knowing that there's different behavior on those devices, and a lot of times that analytics or those behaviors are something you guys have access to, whether it's sophisticated things that RJ Metrics can flesh out, or things that you can find in Google Analytics as well.
That's great. Eric, you have a slightly different perspective about location.
Yeah, so we have 6 locations. At one point we were, one shop, 150 people in one building, all looking at each other. And now we're like closing in on 500, 6 different locations. We were 4 million and built a data center on a credit card essentially out of bootstrap cash flow to almost 100 million, and just a totally separate deal. So my point that I'm making with that is we certainly did have the economic capabilities to fold in geolocation from a purchase behavior perspective with our own customers. So for example, we have 4 cloud super sites, and customers are presented with cloud server purchase capabilities based upon the available inventory or workload that cloud is actually experiencing at that particular moment in time, as well as also customers are determined based on their tag signatures of where they're coming from in terms of their physical location, or even us knowing if they're coming from a certain organization and where that organization's headquarters are located. Then they're presented with a different cloud that they can select to purchase. And obviously they can make their own determination and decisions of what they want to do. We weren't able to be this sophisticated around 3 years ago because we didn't have really a cloud structure at that time. So essentially, we had all physical servers, so maybe around 10,000 to 12,000 physical servers around, I think around 3 sites. And we demolished around 50% of those servers and put them all in the cloud. So now we have a much more efficient sort of capital expenditure because we're able to reuse our resources on the fly. So that certainly allowed us better flexibility in terms of reduction of shipping costs, because you're exactly right. We did ship very heavy servers through UPS and FedEx from Delaware to Denver. Yes, embarrassing. But we didn't have that sophisticated of an inventory and management system to deal with that. So with cloud, obviously we're able to reduce those shipment costs, but now we have a much more sophisticated inventory and control system that allows us to determine if the customer has purchased a set of physical, bare metal servers, and then we're able to deliver them, to the point, where they're actually going to be deployed. And that whole life cycle is able to be, done in 48 hours. So from a geo perspective, if I were to, lift this idea off of hosting.com and I were to move it on to something like Wawa, Wawa hosts their website and e-commerce infrastructure with us, very big PCI deal, hundreds of checklist items that we have to go through every year with them to certify the installation. But from very, very beginning, even on a handful of servers, they had a location perspective because, with that brand, you very much identify with the local store that you're making purchases at. So they collected a lot of location data. Initially, it was something that they had developed just internally with their own internal map-based systems, because they had this in play as early as, I think, 2001 on the website. So as you saw MapQuest and Google start to expose their mapping data, then they were able to leverage, software as a service, other pieces of data that they didn't have access to before. So you can see an organization like them, a multi-billion-dollar provider of food services to the region, kind of make those decisions and those changes.